So if you're in front of a group of investors right now, 6 consecutive weeks of negative growth as we head into this fall season, what do you say to them to say, look, it's still wise to invest in this industry, but more importantly, invest in Numinus? What would you say? Hey everyone, welcome to our latest TDR Psychedelic exclusive big podcast here today as we bring back a big name to the podcast, getting updates over all the industry, more specifically this company in particular. Let's welcome back the CEO of Numinus Wellness, which trades on the TSX under the ticker symbol NUMI, Payton Nyquvest. Good to see you again. It's been about 5 weeks, but how's the summer been? I know it's probably been busy for you.
It's definitely been a busy summer, but a good one as well. And I think as we've talked a lot about, a lot of excitement coming into the fall. So things feel good.
All right, it's like the stage has been set. We've been anticipating this for a while. Let's get these summer doldrum days behind us, as much as we like the weather. But
Yeah.
off the top, look, I know we had a lot of positive momentum dating back to June with the MAPS conference. You and I have discussed that. There was some positive momentum. You saw stocks move for the next couple of weeks after that conference, but a lot of that momentum has dissolved now. When we look at this industry as far as like a performance, it's been on the negative decline for 6 consecutive weeks now, which is highly anticipated or expected come the summer months. But as we head into this fall, there's a lot of optimism, hope. There's also people that are skeptical and nervous about the industry. So if you're in front of a group of investors right now, 6 consecutive weeks of negative growth as we head into this fall season, what do you say to them to say, look, it's still wise to invest in this industry, but more importantly, invest in Numinus? What would you say?
Yeah, I look. I think the industry more broadly, yeah, it's been a quiet and downward trending 6 weeks, like the majority of 6 weeks in July and August during regular times, and I don't think that this has been any different. I think it's just been a very, very quiet and challenging market through the summertime. It feels more painful because it's compounding on a tough, frankly, year and a half in the psychedelic space. But the thing that I'm frankly more so taking from this summer is one, you saw, with albeit a small amount of momentum being a conference and just positive sentiment, you saw how quickly things can change in a positive direction, which I think was great to see.
Agreed.
And then the other thing you've seen through the summer is some very big financing activity, which like a huge financing done by Compass.
Big.
You saw a deal done by Cybin. You're seeing transactions get done that are significant. Are they at the prices that everybody would want them to be at? No, but I mean, the Compass deal of almost $130 million bucks. And then, if the warrants get done, a much more significant amount of money for, let's call it what it is with Compass, for a successful, but maybe more questions than answers in the phase 2, a phase 3 that everybody knows has been, a little slower to get off of the ground and hit a few more speed bumps than people were anticipating. That kind of a drug program brought in 130, I think 125 or $130 million financing. Like that's
125, and then warrants at 993. The quality investors was eye opening as well.
Yeah,
and I think a lot of people are very eager and excited to see some of these things happen specifically for your company.
Yeah,
and I think that's the thing. Like when we look at these MAPS readouts, investors, it seems like they've been waiting forever for these readouts to happen. Last time that you were on, you were thinking that we could see something happen towards the end of August. I know there's not information that you're going to know as to when these readouts do happen, but do you anticipate these readouts to happen very soon?
Yeah, I stick with the same, if I'm MAPS, frankly, and as I've said before, MAPS has no say in when these results get posted because they're posted by an independent journal. But if I'm MAPS, I'd probably love to see these come out after the September long weekend sometime. That's
right.
And frankly, as Numinus' CEO, I would love for the same. I would love to see it come out sometime, in an ideal world, sometime mid-September, when people are back to work, summer holidays are over,
Yeah.
and people are paying attention. And again, like and maybe I'm a little bit of a dead horse on this, but if you think about what that catalyst is, MAPS has already put out guidance that says that the results are as good or improve the first phase 3 results, which I've
Yep.
spoken about ad nauseum, are incredible. And what that posting of those results does is it then puts them on a timeline of drug submission, DEA reschedule. Like there's a very, very clear and structured process that they go through then around rescheduling. So, it's I think an absolutely massive, it's the catalyst that I think we need for the space and for Numinus as an organization. Again, as I've said before, Numinus was built for these kind of catalytic events, and not just I should also clarify, like not just so that we can offer MDMA assisted therapy. Obviously that's a huge component of that, but we've spoken at length about training, and
Yeah.
we've built an incredible training platform that is very, very busy as it is, that once those second phase 3 results are out, and once practitioners realize, like, okay, now is the time for me to go spend the money to get trained and stand up a clinic and get prepared for when this is approved, that is a significant inflection
Yeah.
point for Numinus as an organization. And that's something, we've talked about the experiential training partnership with MAPS. We've talked lots about the training programs that we've built to make sure that is going to be the biggest limiting factor to the success of MDMA launch, is
Okay.
how many trained not just practitioners who have gotten some kind of training, but practitioners who have gotten trained in the MAPS protocol, the MAPS way, because there will be a certification process for practitioners.
Yeah.
That responsibility of certifying practitioners will either land on the FDA or it will land on MAPS, but it will need to follow the criteria of the MAPS protocol as closely as possible. And
Right.
because we've worked with MAPS for as long as we have, because we've ran the protocol in a research context in our existing clinics,
Yeah.
we will be a very important part of that process.
Right.
And step one will be get as many practitioners certified as possible
Yeah.
so that we can actually grant significant access to MDMA assisted therapy.
So earlier this year, MAPS had data that came out regarding the first phase of their phase 3. Am I understanding that correctly? It was mainly confirmatory data, but with the readouts that are going to happen in the next little bit is something completely separate. Is my understanding
Yes.
that correctly?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
This will be not dissimilar to the first phase 3 results, which it will be numbers and everything. It will be a very deep and in-depth look at the results, what it does, the durability, all that comes with a second phase 3.
Okay. So if these readouts happen, let's say whatever, sometime next week, next month, relatively soon, and they're strong, which many people are anticipating, hoping that they are. If they are strong, maybe remind what this does for you as a company, and does this change the overall outlook of Numinus moving forward, knowing that there's been a lot of questions regarding your current burn rate and cash position? Like, what does that do?
It is a massive catalyst for us. Again, training, which is not only a big source of revenue for us, but very profitable revenue for us as well. We've already built all of that infrastructure. A lot of that's done virtually. There's a small component of it that gets done in person,
Yep.
but it is a very good business for us from a profitability standpoint. And then from a growth standpoint, again, what practitioners, and I'll go back to the conversations we had about the conference, right? MAPS had this conference, 12,000 people, half to 2/3 of the people at that conference were healthcare professionals that are all
Yep.
sitting there waiting, wondering, when is the time for me to go spend the money to get trained and start to build locations and
Yep.
start to be able to really, really talk about this. And I think from a client perspective, it's the same thing. I mean, our inbox gets inundated daily with people wondering, when can I get access to MDMA and psilocybin assisted therapy? And with these results, while we can't give an exact time, like date, the guidance becomes much more
Yeah.
concrete and clear. And so for us, it's a huge opportunity for us.
Yeah. Do you see a positive chain reaction of events for MAPS, given that they are raising money in a Series A financing currently? Because I've thought about this. Like, if these readouts are as strong as what they think, we got front page news in the Wall Street Journal earlier this summer. We're actually getting more Wall Street Journal coverage this week regarding
Yep.
MDMA. But if they're as positive as they are, do you see like a lot of big name philanthropists getting more and more involved in writing checks? Because
Yeah, yeah, 100%. I think not just philanthropists. Again, if you look at the institutions that came into the Compass financing again, like, so let's just by
that's a good
compare.
point. It's a good point with
Let's
Compass.
just
Yep.
Yeah. So let's just do by comparison, right? So Compass does 125 million dollars for a successful, but still a lot of questions to be answered, phase 2 clinical study for psilocybin for MDD, right? You've now got MAPS that is raising money with not just a successful phase 3, but 2 successful phase 3s.
Yep.
With a very clear pathway. Once that's out, a very, very clear pathway to launch, and a very kind of grounded and realistic timeline to launch once those results are out. So
Yep.
I think, again, I think this is a very big catalytic moment for the space. And I think what people should take from this as well is this will open the floodgates for a lot of very exciting news out of MAPS and their camp over the next 12 months. I mean, this is a bit of a domino kind of effect for them, right?
So domino effect for MAPS, but bringing it back to you, as they go along, you can sit here and communicate that you will go along with that as well, given your partnership with them.
100%. And again, as we know, and what I'm really, really excited about with MDMA assisted therapy is, I think the more it gets talked about in regards to what the model is to be able to offer MDMA assisted therapy, which will be the same model, similar model for psilocybin and other psychedelic drugs, is the importance of therapy and the fact that these are drug plus therapy interventions that have to happen in a clinic. Okay. And I think
which we've discussed many times.
Which we don't need to. That horse has been,
it's biotech at its finest, right? It's
right.
Just we get positive momentum and we want continuous news, which I get.
Yep. But I mean, that's and look, like that. I think the challenge. A lot of people rushed, and again, why I'm excited for the clarity in this is so many people rushed into this space at the very top of an already very, very frothy market 2 years ago. And I think people were like, and look, I saw all the presentations, I saw all what was being talked about. Was there a lot of misunderstanding or misconception in regards to where psychedelics are at? I mean, we still get people today that call us all the time asking us if we're selling mushrooms because they legitimately think psilocybin is legal. There was a lot of misunderstanding in regards to what this industry represents, what it is, and frankly, I think the fact is far more impressive than the fiction was. People just weren't paying attention to what the facts were, and now they didn't understand it. And we've been through a very painful learning experience or learning opportunity for investors. But this is, I think the thing that people need to understand is, like, this isn't an overnight thing. This is something that has taken a long time and will take some time still. But we're at this, again, very exciting catalyzing moment of which, MAPS anticipates MDMA being legal for therapy this time next year. And that's a very tight timeline, or not a very tight timeline, but it's a very opportunistic timeline for an investor. And for Numinus, we've been here since, MAPS has been here for 37 years. MAPS has far and away more gray hair and more experience in the space than anybody. And we're fortunate enough that we've been able to learn a huge amount from their experience. But Numinus
Yeah.
has also now been around for, as long as any other psychedelic organization in the space. And we're not only still here, but I would argue thriving more than anybody else in the space. And we put together a model that has demonstrated success
Yeah.
and is able to now be leveraged for what we built this company for, which is the accessibility of things like MDMA assisted therapy and then others.
I think everybody, as far as that knows your story and as our investors, understand that all the right pieces are in the right place. Try telling an investor in the year 2023 to be patient. You're not going to have much luck,
Right.
but that's just the reality. But saying that, often the question gets asked is about, burn rate, current cash position. You said in your last earnings call that you are basically set up to run this company all the way until when the FDA does approve MDMA. So
Mm-hmm.
saying that, do you think the rollout will be fast once they do approve it? Or do you think it'll be slower because it's a new therapy and we've got to train the right amount of therapists? Like, how do you see that playing out? And are you prepared if there are delays as a company?
Yeah, I think in regards to rollout, frankly, we're taking that responsibility on as a part of helping Maps with the rollout. The rollout will really be as successful as we are. I don't think in regards to like will there be any kind of delays or anything in regards to rollout from sort of the organizational side of things. I think in regards to anytime you're at the mercy of regulators, is there risk? 100%. There's always risk. If I think about are risks mitigated with MDMA assisted therapy, breakthrough therapy status, two successful phase threes, the conference they've got high profile regulators that are there. They're getting guidance from the FDA. You've seen billing codes get approved from the American Medical Association.
Yeah.
Like it's and I
I want
know
to,
I've said
you
this
know, I
over
want,
and over again, but opportunistically, it's such a huge and if you look at the size of the marketplace, right? We all know mental health is
yeah,
the number one, in my argument, it's the number one societal issue out there at the moment that we have no good solutions for, no innovation in over 50 years.
yeah,
And frankly, you've got a market that has been greatly preceded and educated around psychedelics. And I can't go anywhere without having a conversation about psychedelics. I got my hair cut this morning. There's three people as I'm
yeah.
sitting there getting my hair cut that are having conversations about microdosing and all. Like it's everywhere.
Well, the big thing that we discussed in a couple podcasts earlier this week was the quality of investors that were part
Mm-hmm.
of that financing for Compass. And, the Morgan Stanleys of the world got involved. And a lot of those warrants at 993, if they're exercised, that would pretty much cover off their costs for their phase 3 trial, which is pretty telling to say the least,
Yep.
early on. But to your point, this is potentially groundbreaking news of a phase 3 trial. So again, in the event that the readouts are as strong as what people are thinking, you think there's going to be financing with the Morgan Stanleys of the world that get involved with Maps, just
100%.
like they did with Compass? Yeah.
100%. 100%.
Yeah. That's pretty exciting to say for the industry.
Yeah.
So I know last time we spoke as well, your CFO, Nikhil Honda, was talking about making progress on the cost reduction measures. Do you want to provide an update on how that's progressing as we're, 4 or 5 weeks since that earnings call?
Yeah, continue to be on track in regards to not just cost reductions, but margin improvements on the business side. And I going back to the conversation that we were just having around MDMA assisted therapy, Numinus kind of uniquely benefits from the second phase three coming out, and really particularly around the training revenue. This for us, whereas other organizations, frankly, including Maps, don't financially really benefit from MDMA assisted therapy significantly until Maps will really see the big benefit of that probably a couple years into post approval, right? They generate revenue based off of the sale of the drug.
Right.
We generate revenue based off of the therapy, which is where the bulk of the sort of financial aspect of MDMA assisted therapy comes in, right? If a protocol costs $15,000 or something like that, the vast majority of that money is directed towards the therapy, which we benefit from. But previous to that is training. And for us, that is a huge opportunity for us to generate a lot of profitable cash flow from training, which will need to happen. It's happening now. We're already very, very busy with training, but we'll kind of exponentially ramp up once we've got that guidance and once we've got that second phase 3 in.
So once the readouts do happen, people then say, then what? What happens to Numinus? What does the company focus on? So a lot of it, do you think with the influx of interest right now pertaining to training will be the main priority?
Training for sure. Outside of really continued operational expertise at the clinic level, training will be right behind that. And then obviously, expansion. And what training gives us the opportunity to do is go build our marketplace, right?
Mm,
So as we train people, people want training. And then the next thing they want is, how do I do this? Right.
right.
And so we have the opportunity to be able to do both of those things.
So as you cut down this lane and basically partner with MAPS, it's all about therapy now. When you first got started, yes, there are some cash burning assets. You talked last time we were on about potentially, are there people interested in some of these assets? Are these
Yeah.
conversations that you'd be open to? Are we still following that kind of like game plan and narrative?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I know it's summer. I know a lot of stocks been down 20-25%, and people obviously want information. They want it now, and they want the stock to perform well.
Yeah.
And I realize that there's only so much you can do right now because, like I said, this industry is so much different than, say, the cannabis space. Like there's announcements that happen very far apart.
Yep.
But again, reiterating to your investor audience, based on the summer months, what's a lasting message that you want to leave with them heading into the fall season?
I mean, today's August 22nd.
Yeah.
And August and December are always the two best buying months of the year. And August in particular, I always argue is the best buying month of the year. And if I think about the space, if I look at what's just happened with Compass, I mean, that is a huge deal. It's a huge deal.
And you're more than convinced that once these readouts happen, we're going to see a domino effect towards MAPS. And if that happens,
I think the whole space. I think it's good for the whole space. You will see the first psychedelic drug go through full FDA clinical trials, rescheduling, approval,
so
and
all
implementation.
ships will rise, you think, regarding the
100%.
industry?
100%. And I think, while yes, it's been a very, very painful period, there's only a few ships left.
Yeah.
And for me as an investor, I mean, I'm very excited, and I'm obviously a big shareholder of Numinus. I've never sold a share. I'm very excited for some of the other stories. I think as we look at what lies ahead, and something that is stocks have been depressed significantly, but de-risked significantly as well. And I think what you're seeing now, the fact that you're seeing the Morgan Stanleys and the big institutions come into this Compass financing, and we saw the exact same thing in the cannabis space. You saw all the quick, fast money come into the space during the first run, and try and make a quick buck. Some did, some didn't, and then the space flatlined for a couple of years. And in that second phase, the big institutions let the fast money go and fund a bunch of organizations, and the institutions sat on the sidelines and waited to see who was going to take that money and build a real business that could really excel in this kind of more long-term outlook on these different industries. And I think the psychedelic space is exactly the same. You saw the same thing in the cryptocurrency space. You saw a bunch of public companies when cryptocurrency went nuts. They raised a bunch of money. Same thing happened. All the air got let out of it. It flatlined for a while. Then the smart money came into the space and cut deals at significant discounts. And that's where the big run happened in the space. And the exact same thing happened in cannabis. And I think the exact same thing is happening in the psychedelic space. And I think this Compass financing reaffirms that.
Are you drawing a lot of interest right now from like just people that you're speaking with out of New York and institutions? Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And again, I think for them, fundamentally, they're looking at what are the fundamental aspects of this that they know that you're going to need. You know, the drug side, we know that we're going to need, and then the therapy side, you know, you're going to need.
Yep.
And it's very, very clear right now who's there and left and best positioned to be able to do that. And I think for retail investors, you know, the thing we always have to watch is smart money and institutions buy where they can. And unfortunately, retail investors typically buy where they have to.
Yeah.
And I think you've seen very smart money be there, pick away stocks. They know how to get cheap positions. That they've made that's how they make a living is on cheap positions. And unfortunately, retail a lot of the time has to pay for that.
So being patient is a fair assessment based on this messaging here today.
Yeah, I look, if you're in the space for a quick buck, you're in the wrong.
I hear you.
You're in the wrong space, and two, you're at the wrong time just in the market in general.
Yeah.
If you're looking to build real wealth and see significant appreciation over a multi-year period, never been a better time.
Okay. I think as we continue to talk as the year progresses, let's get obviously the news pertaining to the readouts, if they're positive. But I think some of the narrative that we should discuss in future podcasts as well is just what does commercialization look like? And it's like how many people that you're going to be able to see on a daily basis with the amount of clinics, and we start to forecast that. We've had some people reach out when it comes to overall math and numbers. I think the first things first is get the readouts and like let's focus on the FDA. And I realize it's going to be another 6 to 9 months before they approve, but it's a foregone conclusion. If the readouts are as strong as they are, they file an new NDA filing. And once that takes place, it's only a matter of time. So in the event commercialization does take place, they approve it. What are we looking at as far as who we're going to be meeting with, how many patients, if you have like some numbers that you could share with people. But I know right now it's all about getting these readouts and staying focused on that. But listen, appreciate the update.
No problem. And the last thing before we hop, just the very last thing I wanted to say is MDMA is kind of the first, when you think about psilocybin, you think about some of these other drugs, they're all going to require the same service platform. And so for us, the thing we're really excited about is MDMA and MDMA assisted therapy for PTSD presents this huge opportunity. It's a huge market, but also we get to then go build an infrastructure that people like Compass and the other drug developers will need. And so there's a exponential kind of compounding effect that we get to be able to leverage now with the launch of MDMA. And so as we think about not just the next year to 2 years, but if we think about the next 5 years, it's such a huge catalytic opportunity not to just get prepared for MDMA, but to be able to then leverage what we built for other psychedelic drugs as they get approved.
I think a lot of people can see that. I think their big question right now is like, how do we do this based on the current cash position and burn rate? How do we survive? And basically the longevity of the company. But again, what I'm hearing today is that these readouts are happening. This company changes Numinus overnight, you're thinking?
Yeah, I think 100%. I think it's a huge, huge catalyst.
Okay. No talks of raising money at this time either?
Nope.
Okay. Well, I hope that helps answer some of the questions to our viewers. Leave a comment below. Let us know what you think. Feel free to comment anything. We'll get back to Payton with some feedback that you guys provide. We appreciate the feedback. If there's anything I missed, again, leave some comments below. Listen, appreciate the time. I know it's been a busy summer, but let's get into this fall and let's get some momentum back going in this industry, right?
Sounds good. Exactly.
All right. Thanks, brother.
Thanks. Good to see you.
You too. So what'd you all think of the interview? Did you like what we recorded with our guests? Then leave a comment below and let us know what you thought of it. And if there's any more questions you want us to ask, as usual, share this video with your network. Click on that bell for all notifications. And most importantly, subscribe to our channel because we would not be here without you. Thanks for watching, everyone.